the approach to learning these days does not have to follow this antiquated medieval regime of going to classes. So for people that are entrepreneurial, starting a business, too many times they have an idea about something. They get very, very excited about a sort of perspective, and they want to go do it. And they don't have the patience to sit back and think, gee, there's 7 billion people on this planet. Maybe somebody else has thought of something like that. So that's one of the things that needs a little bit of humility to be able to come up with that sort of understanding, right? So one of the reasons why it's important to understand the things you can control and things you can't control is because you want to write that stuff out so that you don't go ahead with your business and make what we call an unrecoverable mistake. Because unless you have parents that are infinitely wealthy that you can go to afterwards to pay back for all the money you borrow from all your friends and enemies, etc., it's going to be very, very painful. So we divide this into things you can control and things you can't control. We call it the 4 Ps: product, price, promotion, place, and the 6 environments. Now I'll start with the environments because most people have heard of the 4 Ps before. And we'll break it down into sub-component parts. An acronym that's used a lot in many MBA schools and undergrad schools is PEST. And it's used to mean political environment, economic environment, social, cultural environment, and technology. So political environment means laws, rules, regulations. And it sounds kind of boring, but if you have a business and you don't adhere to sort of regulations about importing or labeling or how you pay your employees properly or languages or so on, that can be fatal to the running of your business. Economic environment. Very significant because that's how you plan your pricing. So these things here, these 6 environments influence how you do your 4 Ps. So whether you decide to sell your watch for $40 or $70 is not based on your supply chain management, it's based on what the people are actually able to pay. That's your economic environment, okay? Social cultural environment. Social cultural environment is when I walk into class and say, "Annyeonghaseyo," Koreans will laugh and say "Wagwan." Everybody laughs because they're not Jamaicans, but they all know that because they watch Cable Pulse 24. So the social cultural environment is all kinds of things about making jokes about people's orientation because it's okay to do that now. We're past being nervous about it, right? There's all kinds of things about social cultural environment in terms of languages and how you have TV commercials where you've got a white guy and a black woman and a dog that may or may not be, so on, and it's all in one sort of so everybody who watches a TV commercial thinks it's inclusive. That's the social cultural environment, right? Things like multi-generational houses and how you sit in the vehicle. Technological environment. Technological environment is as simple as 12-year-old girl walking around Nathan Road in Hong Kong going, "Oh, got Wi-Fi." Why? Because she's 12. She doesn't have a job. She can't pay for her own phone, right? And her parents are sick and tired of the phone bills for the 16-year-old kid. And so that's why the technological environment is important. Technological environment, things like if you've got videos on your website and the file size is too large, people can't open them. They got to be smaller pictures so they can load faster. That's all about the technological environment. Now, that's not it. There's more. There is also the competitive environment and the geographic environment, right? To some extent, almost everything you do relies on whether you do or don't have competition. Because if you don't have competition, you can sell it in one size, medium, one color, black, and that's it. Competition does not force you to have a variety of colors and a variety of sizes. So the corollary to this is when you graduate and you're working for a company, you want to work for a company like Rolex because there's not a lot of Rolex competition. There's companies that sell super expensive watches, but most of them are in the $50 to $150 category, right? So you want to work for a Cadillac dealership, not necessarily for a Toyota dealership. So the competitive environment, I'll talk about that more in detail because there's direct competition and indirect competition. The geographic environment. Now, a lot of my professor colleagues don't want to include that, but my premise is saying that these are the things which influence business in a broad category, right? Laws, rules, regulations, politics, okay? There's no doubt, you cannot deny that geography influences business. And more as we go from a rural concentration to urban concentration. And all major cities around the world are close to coastal waterways so that you get weather extremes that affect a large number of people. Weather and geography is things like sunset, sunrise. Why are insurance rates higher in Canada? Because people drive in the dark at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the wintertime when it's icy, right? So the geographic environment affects a lot of things. Everything from the number of degree days of sunshine so that you can grow food. And So how animals mature faster and all kinds of things like that. So those are your 6 E's that influence the 4 P's. So the first